All right, guys, before we go ahead and install our monoballs on the car, I wanted to give you a quick close-up look at these. So these are the Turner forward thrust arm monoballs for your forward thrust arm or control arm, whatever you prefer to call it. These press into the control arm. There's a beveled edge. They install from the beveled side. There's also some very nice instructions that are supplied with the monoball, so be sure to read those. But yeah, very simple. We press out our old bushing here. You can see it's just a rubber bushing and a metal casing. This bushing is fairly stiffer than your standard F30 being an M car, but still nonetheless for what we're doing with this car, this is not going to work. This new monoball now has very little to no friction when pivoting, as well as zero deflection forwards or up and down, and that laterally and horizontally locates our suspension geometry, which keeps our alignment in perfect spec and allows us to really get every ounce of performance out of the car, as well as get the most feel out of the car, right? The most feedback. So now that we've gone ahead and installed those, we're going to get those installed in the car. But before I install them, I wanted to show you real quick. They do come with some offset spacers. Make sure to install these before installing them on the car. One per side, super simple. They just slip in like that. We also are doing these fall line rear monoballs for the lower inner pivot on the lower camber arm. We'll show you on the car what that looks like. We've already pre-installed one, as well as one of these forward thrust arms, so we'll give you a shot of that next. But yeah, I mean, this is it. It's just a nice metal slug with a pressed in Uniball and some machined. Since that one's zip tied, I got the other ones from the other monoball. So just some same thing, some machine slugs to offset the spacing of the Uniball. Make sure to install those as well before you install your lower arm. Basically, those do the same thing as the other monoballs. They get rid of the rubber. They laterally and horizontally locate our rear lower camber arm so our camber doesn't deflect or change during hard driving. Here's a quick look at the old bushing. We melted out the inner sleeve. You pull it out, and then a little hammering on both sides shrinks the case. You can see the case is split here, same as the front bushing. All of the factory bushings are like this. They're split. They're kind of like a spring tension in them. That's kind of how they get the press fit to fit into the arm. So essentially, like, the diameter on this is larger than the actual hole that they live in, and the reason for that is to create that pressure, the excess fit, so the bushing does not come out of the arm under hard load. So that you will need a press to do these. You can maybe get it done in a big vise. You can do it with like a hammer, you know, and some wood and stuff like that, screwdrivers. Just burn out your bushing. It's a big mess to burn this all out, but you could burn it out and then hammer out the outer sleeve. That is one way to do it. In this case, we used a press. So we're gonna go ahead and get these monoballs installed on the car. Let's go ahead and give you a quick look at what that looks like. All right, guys, so I just removed 7 screws from the inner fender here. One here, one here, one here by the vent, and one on the frame rail, and 3 across the bottom here. I do have the Turner skid plate. Normally I take this guy off and just kind of leave this hanging and work through the lower section here, but since I got this metal one on there, more of a pain to remove, but we've done that to both sides. So both sides are ready to access our bushing here in the front. We're gonna be replacing those for a monoball. So let's go ahead and continue moving on and getting these control arms off so that we can get the Turner monoballs installed. All right, guys, so on the M2 Comp base M2, there's a little bit more room to get this bolt out than the M3 M4 from the F8X generation. The M3 M4, this right here is much closer and basically runs into it. You can do it, but it's a much harder job to do. So you can see we just got the control arm loose in the front. We got both sides zapped. So these arms are already gonna come out. All right, guys, let's take a quick look at these F8X thrust arm monoballs from Turner. Basically put these on every F8X car I ever have. I love these things. Put them on my E92. I recommend them a lot to customers. As you saw, we just did the G80 ones. Love these bad boys. Unlike the Dynon ones, these are knurled, so you gotta press them in. Then they have a circlip, goes on and holds them in place. Keeps them from falling out. So yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. It's pretty simple. So we're gonna go ahead and pop these bad boys in and get rid of these rubber bushings. Get rid of all the deflection in the front suspension. As you've seen previously, we've already done our SPL end links, our British steel brake lines, and obviously our Intrax coilovers, the biggest suspension mod we've done yet. I do have plans for some sway bars and everything, but I want to get this car dialed in without too much sway bar in it. And if we feel like it needs more, then we'll put some more in, but I don't want to overdo it and just work with these coilovers first and make sure they're dialed in before we go to some sway bars. We're also going to be doing the rear monoball here on the lower pivot, this forward pivot here as well. Stay tuned. After that, we're going to have no more rubber on the front or back of this car, and she's going to be ready to rip. I'm going to try to do the least amount of work possible since everything's already been torqued and marked. I'm hoping that I can just undo this bolt, pull it out. The control arm will swing down enough out of the way or backwards a little bit to give us enough room to get that bushing out. Same with this side, same deal. Like I had hoped, there is enough room to move the control arm around to get this bushing out. I previously did start removing them. You can see I was smacking on it here. I actually started splitting it, and halfway through doing that, realized that we didn't actually have the correct parts. We had the ones for the control arm here, and for some reason I had thought they were monoballs for here. I messed up when I ordered the stuff. Super late night, don't order parts when you're tired. I do still need to make a bracket for this headlight sensor here. We're gonna rig something up. There's 2 threaded holes just as there are here on the top side. We're gonna rig something up, make a bracket that kind of comes over the edge, probably rotate this from the one side that it's on to the opposite side, so the nut will be facing the opposite side. Should get us just outside the arm and get us low enough that we can get the correct range of motion to not hit the subframe there. So something I will develop here over the coming days. We also still need to mount our reservoirs in the rear and in the front permanently, so we'll be doing that as well. But yeah, let's get these bushings changed out. Something else, guys, did make this little bracket here for my ride height level sensor, as the fall line lower arms don't come with anything. It's kind of version 1. I'm definitely gonna redesign it, but I thought I had it on point to begin with, but as you can see, the angle is a little off. So I kind of like bent it and tried to make it a little better, but it is what it is. It'll work for now, but we will fix that later. But that's it's gonna at least get it down the road, and the geometry should be good enough that it won't run into the body or the subframe there in that section. So yeah. All right, guys, we're just heating the center of the bushing up here to the point where we can just smack the metal slug out. Once the metal slug is smacked out, it'll be much easier to crush the outer cage and pop them out. So as you can see here, we've got a nice hot flaming slug. It literally started to fall out of the bushing once it got hot enough, so that's how you know they're ready to go. So we'll just throw that to the trash or to the sink, cool it down, and get the rest of the bushing out. There we go. We just used a screwdriver and a hammer to kind of crush the cage on both sides, as you can see. And now we're just kind of punching it out with a slug. So I've got my little bearing race seal driver kit with adapter just small enough to go in the hole, just beating that bad boy out, and it's coming out right now. So I'm gonna get that out and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, guys, we just got the other side. You can see, well, now it doesn't want to, but it literally just like popped out of there, pulled it this way. Make sure to sweep the stuff up because it sure is messy. Makes a good old mess of everything. All right, well, yeah, you guys get the picture. That's how it's done. It's honestly the quickest way. It takes about 5 minutes this way. About 30 seconds of baking it and maybe about a couple minutes of hammering on it. Quick look of the Turner monoball installed in the control arm and installed on the car. We still need to torque this bolt that goes through. The torque on this is 100 Newton meters or 74 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. The torque on the outer ball joint here, the 21 millimeter nut, is 175 Newton meters. So we'll go ahead and torque that as well. Here's a little look of the arm installed on the car. Super simple, takes about 5 minutes aside to get them out and get them back in. The most time-consuming part is the removal of the monoball and reinstallation. So we got our arm with our shims pre-installed. We're gonna go ahead and get this installed on the vehicle. So the way to do this is kind of tip the arm over your tie rod, and then we're gonna go ahead and slide the control arm towards the front of the car and get these arms up in there. A little finesse as you kind of run into your sway bar here. Actually, there you can see we have the monoball pre-installed and the bolt hole lined up. Now we're going to go ahead and slip our bolt in. So this as well takes a little bit of finesse as this coolant line is kind of in the way. Get our bolt slipped in, just like that. As you can see, our bolt is threading in nicely now. We'll go ahead and install the other side. All right, guys, we're just gonna zap down these 21s real quick before we torque them. All right, guys, here's a quick shot of the upper monoball in action. We have installed it on both inner pivots here, and this forward traction arm, upper traction arm as well, has the monoball installed. It's kind of hard to move sometimes, but that boy has it, and so does this on both sides, as well as the lower inner pivot, which we'll show you next.